everyone. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Today, I'm starting a new series of art talk videos where I will talk about my experience with art in school. I went to a four-year university and studied art as well as art history, and just kind of other art topics that I think are good to talk about when you're passionate about something. Hopefully you want to talk about it. I'm certainly passionate about art, and so that's why I'm starting this series. If this is not quite what you were expecting and you want more of a tutorial type video or learn sort of tips and tricks for art, I encourage you to check out my other content. I have quite a few time-lapse and real-time tutorial type videos, as well as more kind of tips for different kinds of materials and mediums you can use with your art. So go and check those out. I encourage you to. But otherwise, I'm going to jump right in. Today, I'm going to talk about reactions I would get when I told people I was studying art in college. And yes, lots of fun. So let's jump right in. One of the most common reactions I would get was, "Oh, that sounds so easy. I wish I was an art major." And oh man, it was all I could do to just like bite my tongue and not give them the proverbial slap, or at least a verbal slap. But no, art is not easy. I'm just gonna come out and say it. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. There's a lot of kind of personal dedication that you put into it in a different way than other things out there. People who are pursuing any sort of artistic endeavor, whether it's, drawing and painting, the more traditional fine art, or music, or any kind of artistic pursuit, really, you're putting a piece of yourself out there, and that's challenging. It's not easy. And the amount of time it takes, that's a lot. You put a lot of time and energy, sometimes even into just one piece of your art, and you have to put a lot of thought into it and what you're trying to convey with your art. I mean, there's probably a different area of the brain you're using, different way of thinking than, maybe a math major or an engineering major or a physics major. The way they would be thinking and employing their cognition, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And so if you are an artist and you're studying art and someone tells you that, sometimes just maybe take a deep breath before you just read that person the riot act, and maybe just talk to them about your experience. Like when I was in 3 studio classes, I was in, it was at least like 12 hours a week in classes alone, and then at least 20 hours a week homework because of all the art assignments you had to do. So that's a lot. It's not easy. So maybe just kindly disabuse people of that notion if you can. Another one that I would get is, "Oh, that's not very practical." And I think it gives unfortunate lens into the societal view, at least the Western society, of art, and how it's not practical to pursue that. Why would you do that? And some people think it's a waste of time. But if that's your talent and that's what you're truly interested in, it's your dream, then don't let anybody hold you back and tell you that. And a lot of the time, when people tell you this, it could be a complete stranger you've just met at some sort of social event, and sometimes it can be people who are really close to you and love you and care about you, and just remember that when they say that, they're coming from a place of concern and care, and they just want to make sure that you are going to be successful, and just maybe trying to remind them, like, this is this is what I'm so good at. I can change the world through this, or if I find ways to pursue it, this is what's going to be good for my life and good for others. Because if you're doing what you enjoy, then that's good for you and the world. So just remember that if someone tells you it's not practical, maybe see if you can try and just gently change their thinking. Another one that I would commonly get, and it kind of goes in the same vein, is, oh, how will you ever be able to make a living off that? Or they'd even say, you'll never make a living off that. And I don't think that's quite accurate. Now, I will say that I'm not a full-time artist. I do have a day job. I work as a librarian, but I have found ways to incorporate art into that, which is great. So I've offered art classes at the library. I do a lot of the graphic design work for the department I'm in. I run a teen art club, which is amazing and one of my favorite parts of the job. But I do know, I think, my ultimate goal, like art full time, that's kind of always been my dream since I was very young. And if that's your dream too, really research the ways that you can make a living off it. There are so many successful full-time artists out there who are making it and being very successful at it. They're on YouTube, they're on social media, and they're sharing their knowledge for other budding artists, which is fantastic. There are a lot of options in the world today, I think, for people to be able to make art their life's work. Kind of going along with that, people would often ask me, oh, what are you going to do with that? And since I was so used to kind of like the more negative view, I would have a hard time not viewing it as such. It's like, oh, you're thinking, again, you're coming from a place of thinking, I can't do this, it's not practical. But it's a very valid question in today's world because there are so many options for what you can do with your art. So instead of, back then, if now having some hindsight, if I could have really put the thought into it, because it's a valid question for yourself if you are studying art or pursuing art. Yeah, what do I want to do with that? Because there's so many options. You can be an illustrator, you can go to the more sort of graphic side of it and be a graphic designer or an animator, or you can be the more traditional kind of fine artist where you do commissions and sell your work that way and hang your art in galleries. Or you can do the more educational piece of it and be very more formal and get the education degree and be an art teacher, or kind of go out on your own and create your own courses for people to take online or even in person. And so there's so many options, and I only scratched the surface with some of those. So when someone asks, so what are you going to do with that? Just assume that hopefully they're coming from a place of curiosity. And even if they're not, and they're coming from a place of judgment, maybe by having like a very thought out answer will help change their perspective. So the next one I would encounter a lot, but it stood out so strongly to me because of, just how it impacted my emotions. But you're out in a social setting, it's very natural in the conversation to come up of, what are you studying? And when I said I'm studying art, I had a couple people at different times who told me, oh, you must not be very smart. Ouch. Hurtful. Please don't say that to anyone, no matter what they're studying or pursuing. It's just not kind. I can't imagine anyone who says that is thinking, that's going to really uplift this other person. Just we're human. Sometimes we have no filter and we just blurt out what we're thinking, but please don't say that. Please don't tell someone that, oh, you must not be very intelligent. Because my experience has been actually that artists are very smart. They tend to view the world in a different way, maybe than mainstream society, think a little bit differently. And sometimes that can be hard for others to understand. But I think you have to have a pretty high level of intelligence to pursue art. And also just remembering that the intelligence comes in many forms. Like I would say I have no athletic intelligence. I'm not that athletically inclined, but for people who like really pursue that and are heavy into sports like that that's where their intelligence lies. Or if you are the more mathematically minded, that's where your intelligence is. Or if you're for the acting or music or the stage, that's where your intelligence lies. So just don't ever assume because of what someone is pursuing that they're not intelligent or that they're not smart enough to do other things. there's a reason why they're pursuing that. And so I actually loved math and science. I was good at it in school. It's just not something I could ever view myself doing as a lifelong pursuit. So art was my passion, and that's why I studied it. So please don't ever tell someone you don't think they're intelligent because they're an artist. The next one is I would get quite often, and it's actually kind of funny looking back at it. I almost can now view it as a compliment, but a common reaction would be, oh. I think it's partly because it might be people thinking some of all those other questions from earlier, and they're like, oh, I don't want to insult this person. So they just go, oh, because I don't know what else to say. Or it could be from a place of maybe admiration, like they admire that you can do art and they think that's impressive. So and if they don't know, maybe they're saying, oh, because they literally don't know how to react, so maybe they're confused by you. I think that can sometimes happen quite a bit with artists. They say things or do things or come from an emotional place that maybe other people just don't understand, and that's okay. Go ahead and just take it as a compliment, because it's actually kind of fun. It's a funny reaction. It's kind of nice. And this next one it's a compliment, but it's a little bit sad. I feel bad because when people would say, oh my gosh, I can't draw to save my life, or oh, you can do art, I'm not an artist, I'm so bad at that. And it's nice to hear that sort of compliment, and clearly someone admires that you can do art, but it's also sad because they're putting themselves down. And I strongly believe that we all have our own talent, gifting, and skill. And it's okay that not everyone is an artist or can do art. And to put yourself down about it is not fair to you. So if you're not artistic or don't do art, don't put yourself down. You have something that you can do that I imagine other people can't. So for anyone in anything, if you admire someone else who does something well that maybe that's not something that you're good at, absolutely admire them, and that's great, but don't do it at the expense of yourself. And then finally, I have to end on a positive note, because that art, I think, is a positive thing. It has the ability to affect positive change. So I'm gonna end on that, where one of my favorite reactions that I would get would be, oh, that's cool, and people would be very supportive and kind of excited that, oh, clearly, they'd see you're pursuing your dream or your talent or something you're good at, and that's great. And if you want to even take it a step further, if you know someone who said that, who is pursuing art, asking them questions like, what type of art do you do? What's your favorite medium? What's your favorite material to work with? What kind of artist do you or want to emulate, or things like that? It just shows a genuine interest, and it really can be a huge boost for that artist, because my experience has been, and it's certainly a case for me, that artists are fairly hard on themselves. They can have a fragile self-esteem or trying to achieve perfectionism, which nothing's ever going to be perfect, and art is so subjective. You're not going to please everybody. But yeah, if you can just encourage someone who is pursuing art, and if you do get encouraged, just let that fuel you and help you to keep going. So those were the main reactions I would get. I'm curious if you're studying art or pursuing art for a living. Have you had any similar reactions, or did you have any different reactions that maybe I didn't cover? I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to comment below and share with me what you've had, what people say to you. So until the next video, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I hope life brings you many blessings. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.